I thought that maybe we should talk about what is an acceptable social interaction during this pandemic. And I was thinking about it because, as you saw, I had a guest over yesterday at my home, and I wanted to talk about what we did to keep ourselves safe. So, first, you have to understand that everybody in my home has been vaccinated, has received both their doses of the COVID vaccine, and that includes myself, my parents, and that's it. There's nobody else in the house. So we're all vaccinated, and my parents have also unfortunately had COVID a couple of months ago, so hopefully they have those antibodies as well. Now we know that the vaccination itself does not prevent you from getting COVID. What it does is that it minimizes the severity of the symptoms and also makes it harder for you to pass on the disease onto others. So even though I've been vaccinated, it doesn't mean that I can't get the disease. And so I have to be careful about who I interact with and how I do so. So my guest yesterday has not been vaccinated, and he was very careful all through. Everybody in his house has been vaccinated, but he has not. So when he was at my house, what he did, what you don't see in the recordings that I made yesterday, was him, using hand sanitizer. He carries around his own. I brought over one from my house and put it here so that he could clean his hands every once in a while when he felt that he had touched different stuff. And more importantly, what he did was that he always maintained a minimum distance from me. Additionally, what we did was that we were sitting in my room, this room, and I had the door open to the veranda, so there was some ventilation as well. I don't know whether it was enough, but it was there. And most of the time, both of us were wearing masks. He wore a mask, I wore a mask, and the only time he took it off was when I served him tea and when he ate some chips. And I had some chips as well, but what we did was we didn't share the same packet. I brought over 2 packets of chips, and we each had our own. And if we didn't like what we were eating, too bad, that's what we had. So what did we do? We maintained a distance, we ensured ventilation, we kept ourselves clean, and finally, what we did is that we made a conscious decision about who we wanted to meet. I don't go out at all. You've seen that I very rarely leave the house, and I take enough measures to keep myself safe in my own interest. It was good enough for when I was at the hospital for 3 weeks looking after my parents. So I'm confident about knowing what I need to do in order not to spread the disease. Zia is also one of those people. He has been pretty much locked in his house. He rarely leaves. And he comes to my place. This is the second visit he's made during this pandemic period. And he comes to my place because he knows that I am very, very careful about staying safe. So it matches his actions as well. And so he's made the conscious decision that, okay, maybe he can visit me, maybe he can interact with me. And that's not something he does with everybody else. We are doing this and we are hoping to be safe, but the pandemic is here and it's causing a lot of suffering. And ideally, even with all our precautions, we should choose not to have social interactions. Zia came over for work, but there's also some adda involved as well. And we have to do better about not having these addas anymore.